Hello, it's Dr. Radley, family physician in St. George, Utah. July is Eye Injury Prevention Month. Protecting your eyes is one of the most basic things you can do to keep your eyes and your vision healthy throughout your entire life. Did you know that we can prevent 90% of eye injuries by just wearing appropriate eyewear protection? The American Academy of Ophthalmology recently did a survey, and they found that 35% of people who responded said that they did not wear the appropriate eyewear protection when doing activities around their home. Recently I had a friend who was telling us about working on his vehicle in his home, and he was working above head, so he was laying back and had the vehicle over the top of him, and had some chemical drip down into his eyes. And again, he knew he should be wearing protection, but we just don't take that extra step in those few seconds just to go get some eyewear glasses to put on to protect ourselves. Such a simple thing that we can do. Most of the time, if we're using eyewear protection, it's usually at a location where we're required to, such as work. But we need to really think about the importance of eyewear protection when doing activities at the home, such as home repair, using chemicals that could potentially splash or spray into our eye, and also when we're playing sports. Men are more likely to be injured or have eye injury than women, mostly because of the nature of activities that we do. Most people, again, believe that most eye injuries occur on the job, but that is not true. Actually, the majority occur in the home because we're, again, not normally using the eye protection that we should be while we're at home, and at work we usually do. It's reported that over half of all eye injuries occur in the home, and 40% of those are usually caused by projects or activities such as home repairs, yard work, cleaning, and cooking. Again, things that we do every day that we may not be thinking about that we need to use some protection for. More than a third of the injuries in the home have occurred in living areas such as the kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living, or family room, not necessarily even outside or in the garage. And again, a large number of eye injuries every year are related to sports or recreational activities, so you need to think about that when you're getting ready to go out and play some ball. Do you need to get on a pair of goggles or eye protection that you may not have thought about? The eyes can be damaged from sun exposure, and not just chemicals as well as dust and other objects, so we need to make sure that we're also using eye protection to prevent UV exposure to the eyes and damage that way when we're out for a prolonged period of time. And again, when an injury does occur, 78% usually state that they were not wearing eye protection at the time, and of those that were, they were usually not wearing the right kind of eye protection. They might have on glasses or contact lenses that they normally wear day to day, but again, not the appropriate eye protection that they should be doing for the activity that they were engaged in. So for most activities around the home, a simple pair of work goggles, this happens to be a pair that one of my children have from working in wood shop. They're a little dusty because of that, but these are usually ANSI standard goggles for most activities that can be done around the home. They have the brim across the top, a full eye protection, and then also the side so that you're not getting stuff splattered in or coming in from the sides when you're doing an activity. So for the majority of projects, that would be enough. Again, with my example of my friend having some liquid drop down into an eye, if he had these on while he was working, that would completely have protected his eye. It may have still run into his face, but it would have bought him enough time to sit upright to try to keep it from running into his eye with the liquid. So simple pair of goggles is enough in most instances. However, depending on the activity that you're doing, you may need a specific ANSI, ANSI rated goggle for that particular activity. And depending on the activity, you might need more than just a simple pair of goggles. You might need to actually be using a face shield. So again, it depends on the nature of the activity you're doing. If you're using hazardous chemicals or other substances that can splash or damage into the eye, you might need something more than just a pair of goggles. Also, you need to take into account flying debris or other small particles to not only you but also bystanders. One example that I can give is how many times do we have someone in our family go out and mow the lawn or weed eat, and if you've done any of that, that you have grass particles, dust, dirt flying up all around the area that you're doing. And a lot of times our kids are outside of the yard working with us, or out watching us, and so we need to make sure that if they're in any range where they could potentially have debris flying at them as well, that they should also be using goggles while we're out in the activity or the yard together doing those things. And again, projectiles are objects that could fly easily. If you're doing any kind of construction or home repair where you might be working with a piece of metal, wood, or glass that could splinter off, then you need to take that in consideration as well. Now, at work, you also need to make sure you're taking the appropriate precautions for eye safety. That is determined by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, to make sure that you're provided the equipment that you should be doing in your workplace. Every work environment has standards that they have to meet, and they have to provide personal protective equipment for you in a high-risk condition or situation. So make sure that you have access to that equipment that you're asking for and that you're using it. You may need to check with your human resources official or whoever's in charge of the OSHA compliance requirements for your work environment. Now, if you're doing a more aggressive activities such as welding as part of your work, you're going to have an even higher standard of face shields and protection that you're going to need to be using. So make sure that you have the appropriate gear for the job that you are doing. And again, if you're going to be playing sports or any kind of recreational activities, depending on the activity you're doing, there should be specifically rated goggles or eyewear that you may need to get for that particular activity. So for things such as racket sports like lacrosse, field hockey, those things should have specific eye-rated glasses that you should be using. For hockey players, you need to have particular eye and face protective equipment. Paintball sports, again, there's specific rated glasses for those activities. Ice hockey, goaltenders, again, specific head and face gear. Baseball, should have face guards for those kids that are going to be behind the plate or high risk of having a ball come out them. You might want to consider that yourself, even if you're in a different position besides being a catcher. Or if you're in a high impact resistant activity, where you might be having a risk of having a fall with trauma such as alpine skiing, you might want to consider snow goggles or a shield to protect yourself for that as well. And again, we also need to think about the UV damage that's happening from being outside. So if you're going to be spending a lot of time in recreational activities at the beach, on the snow, in the water, you're going to be getting a lot of direct UV light exposure, sun exposure, and reflection off of those surfaces. So you need to make sure that you have appropriate UV rated eyeglasses, preferably full face wraparound glasses to protect your eyes from those circumstances as well. So again, July is Eye Injury Prevention Month. Please just take a moment, go grab those goggles and put those on before you get ready to start your next activity, so that you're not becoming one of the statistics of those people who are injured that was not wearing protective gear at the time of their injury. Your eyes, you only have one pair of them. You can't transplant them at this point to continue to have a productive, healthy life the way that you want to. And so we want to make sure that you're taking good care of them and not having significant injuries happen. Please just take that moment and think about what you're doing and protect your eyes. This is Dr. Radley, family physician in St. George, Utah.